everyone, welcome back. My name is Hannah. This is Alignments Principles Yoga. Today we're going to be working on getting ready for rest, a restorative yoga session, if you will, kind of help us settle down from our day and get ready to go to bed and have a good night's sleep. So before we start, want to make sure we have some props nearby. Now, if you have yoga blocks and bolsters, that's great. Go ahead and go get those. If you don't, no worries. We're all about making it work here and working for your budget. So make sure you have a blanket. You can have a foam roller if that works for you rather than the blocks. A pillow. If you have a pillow, make sure it's kind of a firm pillow. If you need to shove two in a pillowcase, we don't want something that's super soft. So to start, we're going to come into a lying position to help open up the chest. Excuse me, bud. Can I borrow this? Excuse me. Thank you. So how we're going to set this up depends on the props that you have. So if you have a bolster, just put the bolster underneath. If you have blocks, that's my personal preference because I don't have a bolster available. We're going to go ahead and get the blocks and go ahead and space them out because we want our lower back supported, but we also want our head to be on that block. We're going to roll the blanket up so it's nice and long and nice and high. And we're going to place that over those blocks, right? Obviously, if the blocks or the foam roller is too high for your spine mobility, you just want to roll a blanket up, you're more than welcome to. We're going to butt up to whatever our platform is. Make sure that head is supported, so scoot down as needed. You are welcome to take the legs in butterfly, or you can take the legs out in front of you, whatever feels best for your hip flexors. But the big thing we want to do is make sure that spine is nice and relaxed. Open those arms out, stretch those pec muscles, close the eyes. And as we go through class today, we're really going to try and work into some pre-meditation, help calm the mind as well as calm the body before our rest. So as you go through class today, we're going to inhale through the nose. Exhale everything out the mouth. Release any heat or tension you had built up from the day. As we move through poses, we're going to try and keep our eyes relatively closed, right? We want to be safe, but we want to kind of limit the amount of light that we have coming in. And we're going to try and stay as low to the floor. We don't want to be getting up in between positions. And as you lie here and throughout class, how I work with meditation is it's not about perfect stillness. That's really hard in today's day and age. So we're thinking more about stillness of mind. Excuse my dog. You're going to want to think more about as thoughts come into the mind, they're balloons, right? So we're going to take a nice big inhale. And on our exhale, we're going to take a pair of scissors and just start cutting the strings to whatever balloons of thought we have in our mind. Let those float away. You can go have them float into a closet or an area if there are things that you do need to come back to. Go put them in a safe place. And as we go through class, if you notice thoughts popping up, whether it's things that happen throughout the day, if it's things that you need to do tomorrow, if you're someone that the hard part about falling asleep is once you close your eyes in bed and it's quiet, you start to have things pop up. Just let that balloon float through one side to the other. Don't reach up and grab it. It's okay that it came into the mind, but let it float through and pass it off to that safe space, that corner of your house, that closet. Continue to inhale through the nose. Exhale out the mouth. By now, maybe you don't feel as deep of a stretch in the chest or the hips. Start to notice what parts of your body are pressing into the mat, into the props. Notice your feet, your glutes. Notice the sensation on the spine that the blocks or the foam roller or the blanket or the bolster is pressing in. Feel the elbows and forearms if they're touching the ground, the back of the hands. Take one more breath here. Exhale it out. On your next inhale, get those elbows underneath you. Exhale, slowly tuck that chin, come up, try and stay as low as you can. We're gonna roll over, we're gonna come to a belly position. Now you can use your bolster or your blanket. I personally like to set this up by having a blanket to the side of my mat, getting rid of the yoga blocks and throwing the pillow here. So you want your upper body supported on the pillow. Sometimes it feels good to get a block or something underneath the top of the bolster or the pillow, just to kind of elevate the head a little bit. We're gonna get our body positioned nice and comfortably. Get that that left leg extended behind us. And I like to have a blanket underneath my knee that is at a 90-degree angle. It just feels better rather than having that pressure if you're not on carpet. You're gonna go ahead and relax your head into that bolster. You're gonna take both hands overhead like you're hugging the top of that bolster or that pillow. And you're gonna turn your head to look the direction of that knee that's open. Close those eyes. Start to inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Start to notice what parts of your body are making contact with the floor, what that sensation's like. Just start to ground yourself in this position. If you're someone where it's hard to not reach for those balloons, have a mantra to yourself that you can say and repeat, or count your breath. That's my personal favorite. Count to the number 4 as you inhale, and count out to 4 as you exhale. Slowly start to deepen that inhale through the nose. Exhale out the mouth. When you're ready, inhale, get those elbows underneath you. Exhale, take that right leg down by the left. Slowly switch sides. So we're going to take the left leg that was straight. We're going to pop it out. If you were using a blanket or something to support that knee, move it to the other side. You're going to have that right leg extended. We're going to turn our head to face the same direction as that left leg. Wrap those hands back over the top of the bolster or that pillow or that blanket, whatever you're using to prop your body up. And start to relax back into your bolster or your pillow. Deep inhales through the nose. Strong, sturdy exhale through the mouth. If you find that you are being able to get into some deep relaxation, you may notice your breath changes to inhale and exhale with the nose. That's totally fine if that's how your body prefers to breathe. If you're deeply relaxed, don't try and fight it. Begin to bring some awareness back to your body. Have those intentional inhales and exhales. And when your body's feeling ready to move, we're going to inhale our arms down by our side, get our elbows under our shoulders. We're going to exhale, bring that bent left leg down by the right. Press on up. We're going to come into a child's pose. Try and stay nice and low. You're going to have your bolster or your pillow. If you would like to stack blankets on that to make it higher so that you have more support, you're more than welcome to. You're going to bring your knees nice and wide on the mat. You're going to pull that pillow or that bolster as far in as you can while you can still get support for your head. If you're someone where it's difficult to get the glutes onto the heels, you're more than welcome to take a block, place it on the heels. Sometimes it just gives a little bit of extra support. Feels nice. Same thing, we're going to take the arms overhead, nice and long. You can turn your head to whichever direction feels best, or you can go face down. Feel free to wiggle around, get that comfortable spot. I'm a big advocate that while we're learning and doing meditation practice, you can move the body, find that comfortable position. It's the mind that we want to try and still. Once you find that comfortable position, start to slowly deepen those breaths. Feel yourself sink into the mat, into your pillow, into your bolster or your blanket. And play around with what feels best for you. We're going to have another 2 minutes in this pose. But if this begins to become too uncomfortable on the hip flexors or the knees, you're welcome to take the legs straight out behind you. So keep the chest on your bolster or your pillow. Keep your chest low. We're just going to slide the legs straight out, right? If you are comfortable with your hip flexors or your knees, you are welcome to stay in child's pose. It's just an option for those. Sometimes child's pose gets a little uncomfortable. Begin to bring some awareness back into your body. If your legs were sprawled out behind you, go ahead and bring them back in. We're all going to press weight into those hands. Come on up. Go ahead and remove whatever props you have. We're going to stretch those shoulders out. You can use, for this next movement, blocks or a bolster or a pillow. I prefer to have a pillow. We're going to place it right underneath our chest, between the armpit, depending on how low it's going to go. It's just how big your prop is. I personally like to rest my head on a block, just so my head isn't drooping. We're going to thread whichever arm feels more comfortable across the body. The other arm is going to cross over, so we're kind of in this T position with those arms out wide. You're just going to drop the head, right, and get comfortable. If it feels better to turn your head to one direction or the other, you're welcome to do so. And then we're going to switch. Begin to bring awareness back to the body. Fight the urge to let any thoughts slip in and linger, but start to deepen that inhale through the nose. See how long you can exhale through the mouth. If your head is on a block or something firm, go ahead and sway your head side to side. Give yourself a little forehead massage. And when you're feeling ready, we're going to stay in this position. We're just going to switch arms. So pick whichever arm you want. I'm going to take the arm that was on top, so closest to my face. I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to slide it under. So it's just the opposite arm is now on top. You may notice this is your non-dominant side. You may need to build your blocks up a little bit for your forehead or give yourself some extra time to settle into the pose. With today's class, it's not how fast we can get into a position, right? We're going to be here for about 5 minutes each time. So go ahead and find what works best for you. Maybe it's not a pillow underneath or a block under the forehead, right? Play with the props that you have. Find that comfortable resting position for you. And then you can settle into the position and the pose and meet us there. Big inhale. And exhale it out. As we have 1 minute left in this position, we're going to play with a little bit of grounding that you can do in each of the poses that we finished class out in. We're going to slightly modify it. We're going to notice 3 things that we can feel. That could be the floor or your mat into your thighs, your feet, your block into your head, your belly on your pillow or your bolster or your blanket. Maybe you have the warmth of a lamp or the breeze from your AC or your fan. Find 3 things that you can feel. Once you've found those, go ahead and notice 2 things that you can hear. 2 sounds, your AC unit, your fan, the music, your breath. Maybe you have a pet walking around. Go ahead and find 2 things that you can hear. And lastly, go ahead and notice 1 thing that you can smell. Maybe it's a candle you have in your room, a hair product, your mat cleaner, whatever that 1 smell is. Take a nice big inhale. Exhale it out. Slowly press your belly into the floor. Get those arms untwisted. If you need to just hug them in by your side for a minute, you can. And then when you're ready, big inhale. Exhale, press up. We're going to come to legs up on a wall. If you don't have a wall nearby, it can be up against a bed, up against a chair. Those knees are allowed to be bent. It's up to you. You're also welcome to place something under your low back. If that feels good to have the low back elevated, you are more than welcome to. Just make sure it's pretty even. If you have a blanket, try and pull all the lumps out of it the best you can. Okay. We're going to get as close as we can to your wall or your object. We're going to drop the knees to the left so we can. The biggest issue people have is getting their glutes as close to the wall as they can. Just go ahead and get to the left. And when you're ready, go ahead and pull those legs up. Wiggle if you need to. Flex those feet. You can have your arms down by your side in Shavasana. You can have them out in cactus pose if that feels good to open up the shoulders. Or you can have 1 hand on your belly, 1 hand on your heart. The biggest thing here is as we sit in this pose, you may notice some tingling in the feet, in the calves, as the blood starts to drain through. Totally healthy, totally normal. We're trying to get all that blood that's pooled up into the feet and into the legs, whether you sat or stood all day at work, back to the heart. But if for some reason that makes you uncomfortable, when you can no longer tolerate it, go ahead and bend the knees and place the bottoms of the feet onto the wall. Push into the wall a little bit. It'll help with that tingling and numbness, right? So if you want to do your grounding, find 3 things that you can feel, 2 things that you can hear, 1 thing you can smell. If you want to count your breath, just start to slowly just melt into the mat. to start wiggling the toes. Maybe point and flex the feet, bend the knees a little bit. Get some gentle, light movement into those legs. Slowly hug them in. You can roll your head side to side. Get a little scalp massage. When you're ready, drop those knees back to the left. Pause in the fetal position for as long as you'd like as we start to make our way to a supported bridge. I like my supported bridges with just 2 blocks. For today's class, I would not recommend going very high. If you have a nice high lifted bridge, it's amazing. But for today, we're just going to try and keep it nice and calm. So go ahead and come into your bridge prep. Get that spine nice and long on the mat. Tuck that chin a little bit so that head, the neck, the shoulders, the spine from the ribs to the mid-back to the tailbone is on the mat. Feet are planted. I like to take a block between my knees to make sure my knees don't fall out and get lazy. When you're ready, take a big inhale. Exhale, press through all parts of the feet. Lift those hips up to whatever feels comfortable. Place that block or that blanket or that bolster. Now, what I will say is 2 things. 1, we want to make sure we keep pushing through the feet. We don't want to put all of the weight into our sacrum, that low back. The second is we want to make sure that block is on kind of that hard, bonier part. We want to scoot them down to the glutes just a little bit. We do not want it on the spine. And so kind of wiggle it down. You'll feel there's kind of like a flat panel. You can kind of just rest on. Squeeze that block between your knees just gently. Press those feet just a little bit so you feel the glutes and the hamstrings activate just slightly. Keep that chin nice and tucked. Close those eyes. Those arms can go down by the side. They can go up overhead. Whatever feels good for your body. Continuing to let that mind be a blank space. Those balloons of thought are welcome to come in, but then they gotta go out, and they can go to that safe spot if you want. You can think about them later. Just don't grab them. If you do find your mind wandering or you are struggling not to think and pull those balloons down, do the grounding practice of 3, 2, 1. What you feel, what you hear, what you smell. Count your inhale versus your exhale. Find your mantra. Anything to just kind of repetitively put in your brain until it kind of numbs out and goes quiet again. If you're newer to meditation practice, this can seem like it's every other second. That's totally normal. Be patient with yourself. If you start to notice any pain in that low back, make sure you continue to press through your feet or just lower your prop down a little lower. Begin to start to bring awareness back to the body. Wiggle the fingers and the toes. We're going to slowly tuck our hips like we're trying to pull our pelvis closer to our nose before we press into our feet, just so gently, so that we can lift up enough to pull out whatever prop we had. Slowly come one vertebra at a time, all the way down. We're going to set up for our supported Shavasana. There's a couple ways to do this. You're going to want something underneath your knees. It can be a blanket. I'm going to use my blocks on a low profile with a thicker setting. All right. You're going to make sure those are nice and supported under the knees. I'm then going to take my pillow, but if you have a bolster, awesome. And we want it in our back, but we want it from like shoulder blade height. We don't want it up on the shoulders and the neck. We want our back to arch over. Right. Now you can use a blanket underneath your knees, but I like to use my blanket to kind of cover myself up and get nice and cozy. So have those props underneath those knees, like when you get a massage, right? You have that bolster underneath. We're gonna have that pillow further down than you think. You want your shoulders and your head to arch over. Your arms can come out to a T position. They can come overhead. Whatever feels good for you, right? If you want to begin to grab more props, right? Maybe you want to grab an extra blanket. Find that comfortable position. Slowly start to settle in. Let the feet fall out. Feel free to take your feet as wide as the mat as you'd like. Just start to get nice and cozy. Start to prep yourself for sleep. And don't be afraid to readjust. If something's starting to not feel right, if you need to move the pillow further down, wiggle it out. Sometimes once we set into a pose for a while, our body starts to tell us what's not comfortable. Listen to that. Readjust props, add props, take them away. Just keep the movement low and slow. when you're ready. Slowly tuck the chin, slowly get those arms underneath you. Try and stay low. We're gonna scoot down or press that pillow up so that it is under the head. Whatever prop was underneath your knees, we're gonna put between the knees and roll to the side. All right, so I'll open the blanket so you guys can see. All right, and then you're welcome to plate that blanket back over. Just find that rest. Rather than pressing up to a comfortable seat, we're going to finish class here. Nice and cozy, warm, hopefully comfortable. Hopefully through class you found some calmness. Got any antsiness out of the body, got a little bit more ready for rest and bed. As you go on with the rest of your night, please make sure to drink water. If it's not too hot where you are, have some nice hot tea. We're going to keep our movement slow and calm. We're going to try our hardest not to use any overhead lights or bright lights. If you have dimmers, use those. If you have ambiance lights or candles, use those. You want to keep the light in whatever room you're going to be in nice and low, nice and calm. We're going to do our best not to have the TV on, the computer, or your phone after this. Even if you have some kind of blue light filter, we're going to try and limit the amount of stimulus and light coming in. Lastly, we're going to try and keep this calm mind, right? Keep these balloons moving in and out. If you're somebody who that just doesn't vibe well with you, or memory is of a concern, after class, go ahead and find a piece of paper, not your phone, a piece of paper, and write down any of those important balloons that you put away in that closet or that corner of your room. Write them down. Don't think about them, but write them down. Place it on your kitchen counter or your side table, wherever you can come to tomorrow morning. That way we can have nice low lights, calm, relaxing moment before bed. If you're able to go straight to bed after this, that's amazing. If not, go ahead and try and read a book, hang out with your dogs or your cats, do a puzzle. Try and think of as if you were in a blackout. You couldn't use your TV, couldn't use your phone. We're going to take a nice big inhale through the nose. Exhale it out the mouth. The light and the love inside of me honors and sees the light and the love inside of you. Therefore, we are one. Namaste. Thank you for joining. My name is Hannah. We are Alignments Principles Yoga.